Many new immigrants came to New Zealand with an interest in science, philosophy, and Māori culture. They started studying and exploring the environment in order to learn about this land, its people, and its opportunities. They discussed their ideas with friends, colleagues, and government. Research was done and observations made describing flora and fauna, learning te reo, considering the origins of Māori, and learning mātauranga Māori from tangata whenua. Studies were made of geology, resources, and possibilities therein. People discussed their ideas, but it was determined that a more formal outlet was needed. Thus, the New Zealand Institute was founded in 1867, the Society's predecessor, and they started publishing research papers in the Transactions and Proceedings. New knowledge was shared, science and arts. Debates raged on new discoveries, such as archaeological sites. Sumner's Caves excavations found evidence of human habitation and Moa bones. This led to debate between Haast versus Mackay and Hector about when humans had arrived in New Zealand. Mackay was working for Haast on the excavations, but had a different view to him and published it. Haast was furious, and the debate over who was able to use the findings got so heated, Haast asked the Royal Society of London to adjudicate. In the end, experts of the day, including Hooker, mostly supported the views of Mackay and Hector. When Mount Tarawera erupted in 1886, information to help explain and describe what had happened was published in the Transactions and Proceedings. In 1919, James Allen Thompson, who later became president, produced a report on the state of science and what was to be done to ensure support was available. One of the recommendations was that a body of fellows be established by the Institute. This was taken on board, and the Institute instigated its first 20 fellows to recognise excellence in research. The same year, the Institute and acclimatisation societies agreed to combine forces in urging the government to pass fresh legislation to preserve the native fauna and that the subject be introduced into the state schools. After the Hawke's Bay earthquake of 1931, the Institute lobbied the Prime Minister and government a number of times to pass stronger building and construction legislation, taking delegations of experts to consult with the Prime Minister. Through the 60s to the 80s and beyond, New Zealanders were becoming more and more concerned about fallout from nuclear weapons testing, for example at Mururoa Atoll. 3 expert reports were published laying out the dangers: nuclear fallout in 1966, atomic fallout 1972, and in 1985, the threat of nuclear war, a New Zealand perspective. Each issue was discussed with parliamentarians. In fact, Prime Minister David Lange launched the threat of nuclear war for the Society. The International Council of Scientific Unions, as it was called then, asked us to draft the resolution that was shared with all scientists internationally working to prevent nuclear war. New Zealand adopted an anti-nuclear stance in the mid-1980s. In 1974, our role to build international links expanded with a trip to China, one of the first in the opening up of that nation. This work is ongoing. We also promoted and facilitated work on the ethical use of animals in testing and helped establish ANZCART, the Australian and New Zealand Council for the Care of Animals in Research and Teaching, which continues today. 1997 saw our Act modernised and reformed with an expanded role including technology. By 2010, we again expanded our brief to include the humanities, which was incorporated in our Act in 2012.
We took on the Po Aranui Award of the Humanities Council of New Zealand in 2010. Since 1988, the Society has provided government and the public with various reports on climate change. The first was at the request of Cabinet Policy Committee. The most recent two reports were produced in 2016 as part of our Expert Advice program. The first is on the implications for New Zealand, and the second on how to transition to a low-carbon economy. This is a mitigation report. These were shared with resources at all levels, including government agencies, members of parliament, teachers and students, as well as the public, who could follow these campaigns through social media. Today, we respect our past and look to the future by continuing the tradition of exploring, discovering and sharing knowledge. We aim to be accessible to everyone while celebrating excellence in our experts. We are constantly evolving and building relationships that will help inspire new ideas. We welcome you to join us, both to celebrate 150 years and to explore, discover and share together. More detailed stories are available in our interactive timeline on our website, royalsociety.org.nz.